You've entered a safe space where women are taking off the mask and talking about their real experiences with money. We'll explore how upbringing and early introduction to money affects your relationship with your finances as an adult. We'll discuss the pitfalls, major wins, and aha moments experienced on a real wealth building journey. You'll also gain inspiration on what first steps you can take to become more strategic with wealth building. I'll even sprinkle in a bit of coaching at the end of each episode. Welcome to the Road to 1 Million podcast. Welcome. Wait, do I call you Lauren or do I call you Dr. Joseph? I love calling you doctor.
Whatever you want to call me.
Okay. I'm like,
It's
I don't know
call me Loren. If you're gonna call me by my name, you have to say it right though. Loren.
Okay, Loren.
Not Lauren. Not Lauren.
I told myself, I said, I wonder if that makes her uncomfortable because I constantly, like, even in social settings, refer to you as doctor.
A lot of people do that, and I don't know why. Even after
It's
repeating.
Christy.
Yes, I think that's what
Christy.
I know. As a matter of fact, I know that's what that is. And you still insist.
Because then after you start saying it, it's kind of like a source of pride too. Like, I want to say it because I need everybody to know that this is who I'm talking to. Okay. So I love that. Okay. So before we jump in, I'm gonna ask you to give us an introduction. But before we jump in, I'm trying to remember where our journey started together. Where did we initially meet?
We met, I met you before you met me. Well, I mean, I knew of you through social media, but we met when we were speaking at
Global Power
Tour.
But we knew of each other way before then. That was just our first in-person meeting.
Yes. Yeah. I was following you online, and then I actually came up to you and was like, Star. And then I'm like, oh, she doesn't know who I am. And my sister had taken your course before, and so I knew of you. I don't think you knew of me, but I knew who you were.
I'm pretty sure I did because Christy loves to brag, and when she's bragging about somebody, and then you go look them up, and you're like, damn! Like the one thing about you that I'm going to continue to say is, like, you're literally one of the smartest people I know. Like, being in the room with you and speaking with you. You're so humble and so, like, kind of soft-spoken sometimes, but every time you open your mouth, I'm like, damn, she is hella smart. Like, you are really, really smart. So, and then to learn that your sister was in an old program of mine, when I saw y'all next to each other, I'm like, how did I not put this together? Like, duh. Like, seeing you side by side is so obvious, but seeing you in separate environments, I never put it together, but I love it. Okay, so quick intro. Go for it.
I am Loren Josephs. I'm a researcher and behavioral scientist. I started my career as a licensed psychotherapist, and I'm still licensed in the state of Florida. My research emphasis is health disparities. So I help organizations to address the inequities and outcomes in the populations they serve. So that's really at my heart. I live in Orlando, Florida, with my husband and my son, Asher.
Oh, I didn't know that was his name. I love that name. Okay, I love that. All right, so if listeners, you are just tuning in, if this is your first episode, my name is Star Melancon. I'm the founder of She Building Her. This podcast is specifically dedicated to Road to 1 Million, which is an in-person experience that focuses on helping women, like, really just lay the strategy and implement a strategy in one day to build a 7-figure retirement, right? So that's the Road to $1 million. This is a limited series, 10-episode podcast. Dr. Joseph, Loren, she is not only a previous attendee of Road to 1 Million, but she's also speaking on October 15th at day 2 of Road to 1 Million in Atlanta, Georgia. And her primary focus at the event will be funding, government contracts, and grants, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So Today, we're going to get to know you a little bit more on an intimate level, just as a woman, as a human being. Of course, we focus on the personal finance journey. So, the wealth building journey, the road, as we call
Yeah.
it, to wealth or $1 million. I put the $1 million because that's like a staple number in people's minds. But in reality, if you do it right, you definitely surpassed the $1 million mark. But $1 million, I mean, everybody feels like that, when you hit the $1 million mark, right?
A
So
nice number.
so that's kind of where that comes from. So before we really jump in, I would like to know a little bit about your upbringing. Like, I
Yeah.
would like to know about your upbringing, maybe your family dynamic, your,
Yeah. So I really, when I think back on my life growing up, it's idyllic in a sense, and I don't know if that type of life exists anymore. Um, I grew up in Jamaica with my parents, and I'm the first of the second set. So my parents have older children, and then there was a 7 year gap, and
Mhm.
then I am the first child after the 7 years, and then I have a younger sister and brother. So even though I'm not the oldest child, am an I have
Yeah,
that role of
took a role.
of
Hmm.
oldest child just because of the distance from the first the first group. And I grew up just feeling really supported. Star, I'm a very, some people might say strange. I was a strange child. My interests were just unique, and I'm different. All of my siblings are different, but we all ended up thriving because our parents were so nurturing and supporting of our varied interests. So I am blessed beyond measure in that regard. I can't say that in any uncertain terms. I reflect on it, and I am just filled with gratitude because of the support and the nurturing that I received in my formative years.
Wow. I love that. That actually kind of gives me chills a little bit because it's no, like, on TV, you see families, right? But that's TV. And then when you step into the real world, you see that there's a wide range of
Yeah,
family dynamics.
yeah,
And so to hear you and you're speaking about it with such passion, it's just like, that's,
yeah.
I don't know. It's like, we talk about wealth, but that is wealth in itself. You know what I mean? Like, just that experience. So how many siblings are there altogether?
There are seven of us total. So my mother and father have one child each from previous relationships, and then there are five of us together from my parents. But I really am who I am because of my early years. Star, I remember climbing trees with my sister, Lisa, who you know, and sitting on the same branch, and the branch falling out of the tree because we weren't smart enough to know not to. So, and sometimes I'm like, did I make this up? But then when I talk to her, she remembers the same branch, and
Oh my God.
it's wild. Yeah. In
Oh my gosh.
comparing, how life is today.
Right, right. Yeah, I understand that. Okay, next question. What was your introduction or relationship to money? I mean,
Yeah.
it was a lot of you, seven plus two parents. That's a big family. So
It's a
what
big
was your
family.
relationship like with money?
My mother was an entrepreneur. So she owned a store, or in Jamaica, we say a shop. So it's a grocery store, but it's not a large grocery store. It's a smaller grocery store, like a neighborhood grocery
Mhm,
store.
mhm.
Um, so I worked in the store at different periods of time, not formally, but I would go there to help out, like after
Family
school. It wasn't a
business.
job. It was just, oh, let me go help. And so I was always exposed to money. Even so, I really didn't think much about money. I just
Mhm,
knew that my needs were met, and my parents took care of things. So there wasn't like financial education, or there was
mhm.
money handling. because of the role, given change and things of that nature. But that's kind of the early years of exposure to money. That shifted when
Mhm.
we migrated to the United States. So,
Okay.
so what at that period, what that caused was a shift from means to starting from scratch and starting from nothing, and having to witness my parents work multiple jobs and things of that nature. So there's this dichotomy. There's
Mhm.
between the experience that I hold so dear in my heart, and then coming to the United States, and then having a shared immigrant experience.
Wow. Do you think that was traumatic for you?
I don't know if traumatic is the word I would use. I'm a therapist, so now I'm thinking
I
about,
know, right?
for
He's
real.
like, let's frame it properly.
So, but um, it certainly required an adjustment. I was young at the time, so I was 13, so not little, but still
Young.
young, and I had to readjust what was my usual way of being, which was not really having responsibilities other than just whatever it is I wanted to do within my own time and
Mhm.
schoolwork, to really recognizing that now I had a role in overseeing my siblings, my two younger siblings, to ensure that they were okay after school. Because now I was the one who was responsible, because sometimes the timing of shifts and so on, work
Right.
responsibilities of my parents, they would not be home when I came home, which was very foreign.
Wow. Okay, I have well, of course, we're all about questions, but so as I'm listening to this, so you grew up comfortably
Yeah.
and with means, with an entrepreneurial parent, and with kind of the like the unspoken understanding that, you know, money was had, and and things were taken care of, and you were living a comfortable life.
Yep.
You come to the US, things shift. Now we go from you spending time at a family business to mom and dad out the house working. You take on this responsibility of, making sure your younger siblings are taken care of, which I can completely relate to because I am the oldest and I have two younger siblings. So I really, really understand what you mean by that. And there's me, and then my next sibling is 6 years younger than me, and then my third is 10 years younger than me. So I was very much, you don't want to say you took on a mom role, but you took on like a caregiver role essentially.
Right.
Um, so was there a moment when you realized that there was going to be another shift from like the family's resources or the family's income to Loren had to create income and really understand that you had to embark on kind of your own financial journey? Was there a conversation had? Was there a understanding that that shift was going to happen, or how did that go?
No, there was never any conversation. There was never any real conversation about that. I remember conversations later on after my father died.
Okay.
But when we first came to the United States, no, my father was an educator in Jamaica. When he came to the United States, he had a similar role, but not as high of a level. And
Prominent.
so, but no, I just there was no conversation. But I did remember I did get my first job when I was 15 years old, and I had to get a work permit from the nurse at the school, because I don't know why that was a thing, but that's what I had to do. And because I was under 16, and
Same.
I had to, I don't know what that was about. But I worked at Burger King, and I was so proud. I was, they put me in the back, and I was just excellent at working to ensure that the ketchup, like the burger looked like the picture.
Oh, yeah.
So there was one swirl of ketchup, and in between that, one swirl of mustard. They took me from the back after the first day because it was too slow. That was it's fast food. It's not, and then I had an issue covering it back up because I'm like, wow, this is actually attractive. So, but I remember being proud of that. And then I started to give my parents allowance.
Oh, okay,
So
we're
I
gonna
would give
have to
them
dig into that.
$20. I don't know what that was about, but I just felt like, wow, I have a job. So that was just me. As I said, I was a strange little kid. And they took the $20, but they knew at some point it was going to be funneled right back to me for some
Right.
kind of, but
I love that. Well, first of all, I am totally seeing, um, something here. Knowing who you are and because I've been in your classes and things like that, you have always been, this is what I'm hearing. You've always been a person who wants to be the best at what you're doing. Like, it
yes.
doesn't matter what you're doing, you want to be the best version of yourself in that role.
The
Is that
ketchup and
accurate?
mustard,
Yeah.
exactly. I take pride in what I do, and my parents always said to us, "You have nothing but your name. That's all you have.
I
You have."
love
I remember two refrains. You have nothing but your name. Your name is your reputation. You create your reputation by the things that you do consistently. And the second one was, you are from a long line of kings and chieftains. My dad used to say that. I don't know which kings and chieftains,
that.
but he always used to say, and I believe that. I'm like, that's how I grew up feeling. You are from kings and chieftains.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, first off, the theme of Road to 1 Million this year is legacy. Legacy. So, what you're saying is so like, it is just connecting on so many levels because I really dove in on that theme because I did a speaking engagement earlier this year. And it was, oh, that's what it was. The coronation. You're from Jamaica, so you're
Yeah.
still a part of the Commonwealth, right?
Well, yeah, that's a whole it
I
not
know. I
really.
know.
It's yeah, so
Yes,
there's a
I've
whole
been reading
thing.
about that.
Yeah.
So, the coronation happened earlier this year,
Yes.
and it sparked this thought in me about, how hard we work now, right? Us present day, how hard we work, how much we're doing to educate ourselves and to really just understand what resources are out there and put strategies in place. And the thought came to me that was like, we, especially as an American, we don't know everything about our ancestors. We'll never be able to know everything about our ancestors, right? Um, but we can make sure that our descendants know everything about us. We
Yes.
can make sure that our descendants um, reap the reward of our labor now, right? So when you're saying that you're from this long lines of, you said queens and
He said kings and chieftains. That's what.
kings and chieftains, and
Yeah.
you're like, I don't know which ones, but I believe that I am. So our descendants will know that it's they're from this long line, and you are one of the kings and chieftains. You know what I mean? Like, that is the legacy right there, and I love that.
That's it.
So the other thing that sparked interest in that kind of sparked in my mind from what you were saying, is this idea of, um kind of, what was it? I'm sorry. I just lost my train of thought. I think you were speaking about working from a young age, which I can totally relate to. And I totally had to get that that work permit as well, because I started working
Mhm.
at 14, 13 or
Mhm.
14, in like a cafe, and I had to get the same thing from my
Yeah.
school, like a work permit to go out
Yeah.
and work. And I've completely lost my train of thought. It'll come back around to me, but the
The
pride you
swirl,
felt,
the mustard, and the
the pride you felt about receiving income and wanting to pour back into your family. Like from what you said at the beginning about how grateful you are, you've probably been displaying that level of gratitude for a really long time, like even in the moment, because your parents and your family took care of you. And as soon as you were able to pour back into your family, you're like, hey, this makes me feel great to do it. That's really a testament to just your personality and and really the great job that your parents did fostering that loving community amongst them and your siblings. So I really like that. Okay, so that was your first job, 15 years old. From then, did you just continue working, or
Yes, I worked through. Actually, I remember resigning from from
Burger
my
King?
role at Burger King because I thought there was unjust treatment to another person, and I resigned on the strength of the inappropriateness of the response to actually, it was my older sister at the time who was working at Burger King, and I felt that she was unfairly treated, and so I spoke my piece and I resigned because I care. You're working minimum wage, and there's 5 other people in line but I just felt that I needed to. It was on the principle of the thing. I need to speak what I felt was the truth to those in leadership, and then leave.
I'm gonna just take a stab in the dark and say that probably has followed you throughout your adult life as
Oh
well.
my God, that's it's I chuckle because it's only in retrospect that I realize that I've always been this person. I've always been the person who paid attention to inequities,
Hmm.
who thought about what are the meaningful ways of making change in communities that are disenfranchised. What are the ways to impact positive outcomes in Black communities and people of color, minoritized, because they might not be real minorities, but they're
Right.
minoritized settings. And so, yeah, and even looking at my yearbook from high school, I saw this note that someone had written, thanks for talking with me about the lack of representation in 17 magazine. I was like, whoa, I didn't realize that I had been doing this then. That's what I do in my work now
Right.
in a variety of ways. But you're exactly right. It has followed me.
We're gonna circle back to that once we in a few minutes once we get to just the real impact of your work. But one thing I just want to note is that when we're on a personal finance journey or a wealth building journey, um, the most important element is you. Right, because you see all these trends in your personality that you can, in retrospect, realize that were with you from the beginning, right? And so when we're building these financial plans, a lot of people want all the strategy. Okay, invest here, do this with your money, do that, but they don't realize that they are the number one ingredients in their financial gumbo. Like it's about how you respond to certain things and certain situations. It's about what you find important to you. It's about what is close to your heart. It's about your why. It's about what you see as legacy. It's about you. The money comes with the business. The money comes with the different strategies, but who you are at your core is going to be the main element of any strong financial journey. So we'll circle back to that in a second, but that's what I'm hearing when you're speaking. Okay, so at what age or what time in your life did you have like that aha moment? Like, hey, I really need to start taking my finances seriously. Like, I really need to buckle down and create some kind of financial stability for myself, or like was there a moment in your life or a moment in time when you just was like, oh no, I'm going all in on this? Because I know, like you said, I mean, like we talked about, you want to be the best at whatever you do. So
I
Did that
remember the
happen?
moment, actually. I'm trying to remember how old I was by thinking back. It's at least 2 decades ago. And
Nice.
so I was working really, really hard and doing excellent work and being compensated at the rate of about, it might have been $12 an hour at the time, with
Wow.
a master's and specialist degree. And so um I was trying to make ends meet. I was living on my own, and I like nice things, have always liked nice things. My apartment was nice, and probably in retrospect might not have been the best decision given the $12 an hour, but it was, my car was
Listen,
nice.
YOLO, okay? You only live
Yeah.
once.
But I just remember thinking that I was sitting on the right side of the bed. I've told this story to some people. Sitting on the right side of the bed, there's a stream of light coming in, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get to the next paycheck? Like the gap between where I needed to pay my bill on time and when I was going to get paid for my work. And I just remember thinking to myself, I always thought, oh God, if I can just make it to the next, I don't want to be late on my bills. If I can just somehow make it to the next, all I need is this. And then it struck me on that day. It was a beautiful day, and the sun was shining in, and the thought occurred to me, you always get what you ask for. And I paused. I'm like, it was just like this imprint in my spirit. You always get what you ask for. And so I paused, and I started to reflect on what I had been asking for. And I realized that while I was giving my best in my work, and I was always asking in terms of, when I prayed to God, how can I just get by?
Right.
And then from that day, for some reason, I started thinking about, there's no just getting by. There
Ooh,
you are you aren't designed to get by. You don't
ooh.
do get by work. You never perform at a minimal standard. You try to uplift and elevate others in the work that you do, and you always give your best, whether you're being compensated or not. So why should it be that when you are asking or when you are seeking, you're seeking to get by? And so that was a mental shift that I made. I think that getting by was a result largely of the shift to the United States, and the
Mhm.
getting in a system of, there wasn't as much, and then move from house to now you're in an apartment, and my parents had to work really hard to get back to owning a house, and all of those things. So that shift was as a result of the shift that I made, because I knew my parents were working so hard. And so I reduced the requests, and then it became this pattern.
Mhm. Oh
So
my. I I really hope you know what a powerful testimony that is. Like seriously, because we are so often stuck in survival mode. Even when, like you said, you are totally you don't perform at a get by standard or level, but we're always stuck in survival mode until we see it, right? Until we like recognize that that's where we are, and like, hell no. What?
yeah,
No. This can't be it. This is not all I deserve. This is not all that I, you know, have worked that I've worked for. This can't be it. So what's next? And
exactly.
then we kind of try to shift into thriving.
Yes.
And the reality is, when you make that shift from surviving to thriving, it's not that you're always going to be financially thriving,
Right.
right? It's that the mindset is always set on thriving, right? Like that's the beauty in the journey. It's not always about ponies and rainbows and I'm balling and everything is good and the money is flowing. It's about internally how you see yourself, how you see your situation, how you see your life, and how you see what you deserve. Because even when you're down in the trenches and things are not going right financially, you're still always knowing that you are working towards getting back to the standard of life that you've set for yourself, which is thriving and not surviving. That is such, you just gave me like, that was such, I hope you know what a powerful testimony that is. Okay, seriously. And for a woman like you to sit and speak about that, really just to break it down and to say, hey, I was making $12 an hour. Well, probably not $12 an hour, but it broke down to about $12 an hour based on the amount of work you were doing. But
no, it was $12 an hour. It was 12. It started at 10. That was the raise.
Girl, I thought you were saying you were on salary, but based off the hours you were putting in, it broke down to $12 an hour.
Yeah, because you don't believe it could be that bad. No, it
you did get a master's and a specialist degree, right?
Yeah, in mental health counseling. Yep. Yep.
Wow. Okay. And you can still
licensed too.
Oh my. Okay. As educated and as such a, strong performer, to even say, hey, listen, I was in this like paycheck to paycheck cycle, and it wasn't because I got a raise and made more money that I broke that cycle. It was an internal shift and a decision to break that cycle, even at my current income level. But instead of downgrading the life that I wanted for myself, I upgraded my income. Essentially, you know what I mean? Like that's the American dream right there. That's all of our dream right there. I don't even know if it's the American dream. That's our kind of dream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that was the moment that you said, hey, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to make sure that I have more than enough, right? That I'm actually setting up really essentially a legacy for myself and creating. So what went into that? What was your first step? Was it like to look at the bank account, or how did it go?
At that time, I had been in process working on my doctoral degree. And so after that process, then I shifted my role from the day-to-day, therapeutic practice. It wasn't my practice. I was working for, a social services aspect of county government. And then I worked for, I started to work more on the health disparities side for a large health system. And so that had increased my salary. I worked there for 5 years. And I just kept feeling the pull that I needed to do something differently, because I still wasn't getting at the heart of what I felt that I was called to do, which was work towards improvement in outcomes. And so through that process, I went on my entrepreneurial journey. That's the Clip Notes version.
Hi, I'm your host, Star Melancon, with a quick break to give you a bit of insight about my signature experience, Road to 1 Million. After this episode, if you'd like to learn more or grab your coveted seat at the table, visit shebuildingher.com/road to 1 M. Links will be dropped in the show notes, and don't forget to stick around until the end to hear my takeaways from this episode. And without further ado,
I gotta grind, won't stop, hustle, won't quit, shine like no other. I be on some more shit. I got a high price lifestyle, super bad heat. If I want it, bet I got it. If I don't, bet all I gotta do is go, get, stay about my business, ball till I fall, floss until I finish. I did go, get, stay about my business. I live in killer, stacking million to the ceiling. Every day above ground, all I wanna do is ball. Put my money over, bitch, you put my hustle overall. Louis down to the draw, Louis Vuitton kicks. Got a mad hat, a swagger, they stupid dumb shit. With a group of young bitches and they stupid dumb dick. I'm the marathon man, all I do is run shit. A sophisticated convict, superficial, still official, multi-million-dollar shit. Money is the object, hot as shit. I got a sauna on my arm, sick, do a work with no diamond, rich and Millie Vacheron. They just talk about they got it, I'm the upper echelon. No, bit much about that action, you can go on with the combo. I done more than you dream back at your dream, you still your dream house. On lean, passing them beans out, with a bag crew, the whole team high. Gone boy, get seen back. Bro, you know me, you know I be stacking that dough, that's all I see. IGOGETID. Grind won't stop, hustle won't quit. Shine like no other, I be on some other.
Okay, we're about to get into what your entrepreneurial journey looked like. But before that, I want to know during this time, during these years where you were really focused on improving your financial status and just your I always come back to this idea of peace of mind because really anybody on a wealth building journey, it starts at some kind of disruption, right? Something disrupts your peace of mind and you're like, that is a very valuable thing to me. I don't want to think about all the time, our creditors calling, can I not make this payment, this and that, repossessions, foreclosures, there's so many things that happen that disrupt your peace of mind. So usually it starts at a peace of mind, but when you started this journey and over the years that you were really kind of solidifying what you wanted your financial legacy to be and kind of, creating the or visualizing the path there, was there ever a moment where you were at a high or a low where you felt like you were alone, like you were the only one who experienced any particular financial thing?
Yeah, I would say the at the beginning of the journey there were a lot of lows because and the lows were actual lows, and then the lows of um my perception of what was going on, and how different it was in comparison to where I thought I should have been at that point in time. So the pain of that and the solitude around that, because I have a high expectation of myself, I think was harder than the actual challenge. So the way we think about things, and I'm a therapist, so sometimes I sit and observe myself. The way we think about the thing that we're experiencing sometimes causes more of a heartache than the actual reality of the thing that we're experiencing. So there was some of that I had to navigate, come to terms with the reality of what was experienced, what was going on, and just to give myself a break in terms of this is a process. It's not going to be overnight, but it's hard. The lowest of lows when you're thinking about it, that you're educated and you're working hard, and I'm really trying to make sure that my lights aren't cut off. So I'm talking about basic needs. I'm not talking about, oh, I can't go on this trip. I'm
Right.
talking about, can I pay my light bill?
Yeah.
Can I pay my water bill? So that was low, or negotiating or calling and making, a payment arrangement. Can I wait until this day to pay my phone bill or something like that?
Yeah.
So having that's humbling for anybody who has experienced that. That is incredibly humbling. And so, yeah, I would say that I'm grateful that I was able to navigate that and still keep my my sense of self intact, in terms of the belief that I was still worthy and my goals were still valid. It didn't get sucked in that vacuum. That,
Right.
for some reason, has always been protected.
Your self-worth.
Yeah.
And that's because of your upbringing. That's because, like, how you just spoke about that upbringing and how it kind of cocooned you and it put you in this. And so you knew that your self-worth was not directly tied to any of these temporary trials that you were experiencing financially. And that is such a blessing. I ask you that because the main inspiration behind this 10 episode podcast is in my work, I obviously work with women and their money. And it always never fails. I have, high performing, women who are making tons of money, and I have women who are still trying to figure it out and are living paycheck to paycheck, and everybody in between. And women always tend to feel like they're the only one going through this. They're the only one who's experienced this. How can I be, making $150,000 and still having to make payment arrangements on things, right? How can I be in my 30s, because we all thought 30 was old before we got there? How can I be in my 30s and still don't have it all together, or still haven't reached this milestone or whatever? And the one thing that I'm hoping that at the end of this podcast, the listeners will be able to see, like, hey, these 10 women who don't know each other have told their stories, and at some point or another, their stories overlap, right? And it really just gives you an understanding that you're never alone on this journey. Because if we could just really break down some of that shame around our financial experiences, if we could break down, if we could manage to get to that point of vulnerability, and we can provide for each other this kind of safe sounding board, a space to have these conversations. And I mean, even when we're high, like, because there's been times, I'm sure you've experienced, and I have too, where I've made money, so much money, I couldn't believe I made it. Literally. And I'm like, I need somebody to tell this to, but I don't want to tell anybody that's going to ask me for something, but I need to say this to someone, And there's been times where I'm like, what the hell? Like, how am I back in this situation? I told myself I would never get back here where I'm, taking a hardship on a credit card or something, right? So my hope is that at the end of this, once you've listened to all these episodes, you'll see that it doesn't matter what you've experienced or what you're going to experience. You're never alone.
Right.
Okay. And it gets better. Like, there is light on the other side of this. Right. So that's my hope. And listening to you, you haven't been on the other episodes with me, but I'm getting chills because I can imagine what the experience of the listener is going to be, because you don't even know how your story overlaps with the other women. And I'm hearing it and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so good. Okay. So we met each other in a business setting. Like I said, you are by far one of the smartest women that I've ever had a conversation with. And I'm sure the listeners can tell, because I said that you're focused on funding and grants and contracts, but we've already talked about you being a therapist. We've already talked about, you doing in research, like there's so many layers to you. We've already talked about your interest in inequities in probably multiple arenas. The depth is vast. It's like you have a lot to offer, and there's a lot of layers there, right? So what is your company name?
Visionary Vanguard Group.
Where did that come from? What's the story behind that?
It came to me in my spirit one day. It just kind of popped it, and I'm like, is there a company named that? And there wasn't. And so I just felt it. It's like visionary to look forward and to try to create an image in my mind of what I would hope that the communities I serve would look like, and Vanguard, to take the leadership and forefront role in crafting the solutions and group, because I was hoping that it wasn't just going to be me.
Oh goodness. I love that. Okay. So you're a consulting firm.
Yes.
So the funding and grants and contracts is that separate from what you do?
No, the grants and contracts is the vehicle through which I do what I do. So I
Okay.
am fortunate to be able to do research, evaluation, training, and technical assistance through grants and contracts. So my familiarity with grants and contracts and how to obtain them was my effort to ensure that I had a revenue stream which was not solely one-off or business to consumer. So I am contracted by governmental entities, by colleges and universities, by nonprofit, large nonprofit organizations and foundations to do work to help them to craft solutions around the certain issues within my area of core competence.
And
So
what is your area of core competence?
my area of core competence is health disparities and related research. So health disparities meaning physical health and behavioral health, which is comprised of mental health and substance abuse. So I do a lot of work with governmental entities around developing solutions for their funded organizations to be able to provide services that are more quality, that have more equitable outcomes. So I measure the work that these organizations are doing and look at the data to see, are some segments of the population faring better than other with specific interventions? And if so, what are the driving factors? And then after determining those driving factors, making recommendations for improvements with the hope that once implemented, then the populations that are not faring as well will have improved outcomes. So that's what I do in the realm of research. So I design and implement original research projects, usually what's called applied research, not research that you're doing just for research sake to find,
Right.
like pharmaceuticals, but or whatever it is that they do on that side of it, but actual tangible research to based on what the realities are in communities, and then crafting solutions based on what the actual practices and processes are. So I do that. And then technical assistance means that I work with the organizations, these different type of government, nonprofits, foundations, and so on, to provide strategies based on where I see missed opportunities around best practices. And so I help to guide them towards doing more effective work. So that's what I do. But everything that I do is through funding, is through a grant or through a contract.
So what I'm hearing is that through your first passion, likely, then education, you began wanting to understand inequities between different subsets of groups, right? And then once you identified them, then you want to know, what can you or society do to bridge the inequity, right? To get
Yeah.
these subsets, these groups, the care or the whatever they need, right? So you were able to create that bridge through the whatever specific population you were focused on at the time and the organization that could assist or provide a service, and you were the bridge, right? You create the strategies, or help them implement systems, help them run the systems that they already have better, like you said, best practices, things like that. And the way you were able to sustain the work that you were doing was through funding, through grants and contracts. And from there, you saw that there were financial inequities
Yes.
amongst small business owners and things like that. You started teaching business owners how to get the funding they need to do their life's work. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, because Star, what I realized was that I kept getting asked these questions. How are you getting these grants? How are you getting contracts? I thought that for-profit entities can't get grants. That's one of the biggest, misconceptions. How are you as a small business able to get government contracts? And so, because I've heard that small businesses can't get government contracts, that it's too hard to get government contracts, that they're only given to larger businesses. And so I started hearing all of these misconceptions and then realizing that for 15 years, this has been the primary revenue stream within my organization, allowing me to be able to look forward and plan, because many of the contracts are 5-year contracts or 3-year contracts. So you can make projections within your company. You can think about directional paths you can take where you might not have the opportunity if you're just getting, not just, because it's still important, if you're getting
the day-to-day grind.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Wow. What because with all the conversations that we've had, I've never been able to hear your story in depth from beginning to now. And I think my favorite thing about all of this is how you've been able to maintain just your authentic, like, heart's desires. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, you knew who you were, and like when you said you resigned from Burger King because you felt like, like if this is 15-year-old you saying, hey, this is not right, there's some kind of injustices happening, this is, and this is how I'm going to take a stand against it. And you were able to maintain that thread throughout your life and say, this is what I want to be educated in, this is what I want to get my degrees in, this is where I want to, my practice areas to be, because I want to serve in this area of society,
Yes.
and then it has just evolved into you really identifying multiple areas that you can, it just has evolved into multiple areas that you can serve kind of in similar capacity and really just pour yourself into. I absolutely, that is absolutely fascinating to me. I love that.
I love it too. I absolutely, no, I'm serious. I love it. And then sometimes when it's hard for people to see the connecting thread, because they're like, how does this all go together? It all goes together because I only do one thing, and that is to address disparities, to work to address what are disparities? Disparities are differences, differences in outcomes, right? Based on race, ethnicity, country of origin, limited English proficiency. That's all I do through my research, my evaluation, my training, and technical assistance. And so when I saw the opportunity, when I saw that it came across my path that there were such vast inequities in terms of business outcomes, particularly for Black women, and that the difference in, at the time that I looked at it, 218,000 of annual revenue average for white women-owned businesses versus 24,000 for Black women-owned business. I was struck by that. And because I'm just immersed in the inequities on a day-to-day basis, I work a lot in the health space, and I'm seeing how poor outcomes in terms of mental health and inability to access services and all of these things, and maternal and child health, and when you look across a variety of sectors, educational gaps, right, discipline gaps in schools, it's a deep story of the challenges that Black people have in terms of that are related to social and structural determinants built into the system. So when I looked at the revenues and the differences in revenues, I was struck by that. And I said, you know what? I can do something about that. It might not be in a large way, because the vision I have for it is small groups of women and building networks and providing ongoing supports. I might not be able to do it in a large way, but in the small way that I do this, I know I can impact change in the lives of these women's businesses. And if I impact change in their businesses, then I impact change in their families. And if I impact change in their families, then I impact change in their communities. And that's legacy.
That is exactly what I was about to say. And you impact change in their legacy, because what you do, and it's so interesting, because even when you say, in a small way, because I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, there are these really big businesses and large, organizations, but it just, nothing seems small. Like, nothing seems small about the impact, even though there are these intimate groups. And I know you have your accelerator. How many people are usually in your accelerators?
There are up to 18. And so we've done 2 cohorts in the Grants and Contracts Incubator, and people have already started to get contracts. Some people have gotten 2 contracts, so there have only been 2 cohorts done, and I'm already seeing the impact. People are getting government contracts. People are getting grants from different entities, and it really makes my heart smile, because I'm like, I know this stuff because I went through the trenches to figure it out. There wasn't a path laid, but because I am a researcher, I can dig and find, and I don't mind that. That's interesting to me. But for people who don't find that interested, it's labor intensive to determine what are the avenues to take. So I am really fortunate to have had the opportunity to share with the women and to now be witness to it. Actually,
Yes.
yeah. So six awards already, and we just started a few months ago.
Wow. Yeah, again, I'm just going to repeat, nothing seems small about that impact at all. Like, you said it's a small level, but that's life-changing, right? It's so big and so life-changing. Even like you said, the privilege of being able to forecast in your business 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line. Most business owners don't have that privilege.
Yeah.
And when we're able to do that, we can hire other people, then we're impacting their lives. It's like trickle effect. It just trickles, like you said, trickles down into the community. And that's not small impact. That's big impact. Okay. Okay. So we're pretty close to wrapping this up. I think that just by the information that we've spoken about today and Visionary Vanguard Group, I hope, and I'm pretty sure, and the way that you broke it down into saying, hey, in reality, if you look at the heart of it, I really do one thing, and I do this one thing in multiple ways, whether it's through my research, whether it's through my technical assistance, whether it's through the cohorts. I do this one thing. So I'm hoping that listeners, I mean, to me, it's such an obvious, it's so obvious how your work impacts your clients' wealth building journey, right? Like, it's so obvious to me how what you're doing affects and impacts your clients and their own wealth building journey, their own personal finance journey, and creating their peace of mind and creating their financial stability and creating their legacy. So I'm hoping that listeners really got that. Obviously, we're going to hear so much more from you and get you in person. One thing that I was so surprised, this is totally left field, but you are stacked. If you've never seen her in person, because on social media, you do like a lot of like this stuff. I'm like, this girl is stacked.
Star, I'm a researcher and behavioral scientist.
When I saw you in person, I'm like, this girl is a brick house. Like, y'all don't even understand the curves. So when I just thought about it, I'm like, we're gonna have you in front of us, really speaking to us. Because I'm telling you, when I first saw you, I was like, she does all this work from here to here. So we don't know, okay, what is behind everything. But when you see her, I mean, y'all might not be surprised now. When you see her, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. But I'm excited to have you in the room to really speak with us, just show us, what you do and what you've been doing, and really just show us how you can change our lives at this event. These women are excited to meet you. I haven't even released, as we're recording this episode, no one even knows that you're a speaker yet. But when I'm able to tell people behind the scenes, they're like, oh my God, like I've literally had people purchase tickets because they're like, she's going to be there. I've been seeing her. Like, I want to see her. And I'm like, shit, yeah, like you need to come see her, because you're not going to have an opportunity to be in a room face to face having these conversations with women like her. Like, she's not an easily accessible woman. Like, let's be clear about that, you know? And so I'm excited just to have you there and to just be serenaded with your information. This won't be my first time Global Power Tour. I was like listening to you up there and really talk with so much passion about what you do and how you really just change people's lives and change, because our business, as small business owners, our business is our life. Like, you don't want to say it, but our business is our life, you know? And so last question for us to wrap up. Oh no, I have two questions. I didn't even get to go into your experience at Road to 1 Million. I'm so I'm so all into you. So you attended Road to 1 Million in Miami in 2021.
2022, wasn't it last year?
2022. I'm sorry. Yes, girl. I'm just all over the place. 2022. Look beautiful in your pink. That was one of my Miami had to be one of my highlights, although there was some bumps and bruises. But it has to be one of my highlights of, this will be my 5th Road to 1 Million. So out of, you know, my time hosting this experience with ladies, Miami was definitely one of my highlights. So first, I want to know what led you to attend. Like, what made you pull the trigger?
Well, you obviously, you know, I had been following you for a while, and I like the way that you share information in digestible chunks, in ways that are easy to access and process mentally. And so, but I knew that I wanted to learn more. I had tried to educate myself over time, and you know, certainly I learned, but that's not what really drives me. And so it's not, I can be steeped in data and research and analysis and, you know, disparities all day. But the financial aspects I know are important, but that's not what drives me. And so I was seeking someone with expertise who could help me to make sense of some of these concepts, because it's still very much a journey. It's a process of learning and growth to build wealth. And so I was very excited to have the opportunity to sit in your presence and to learn. And it was an excellent experience.
I'm happy to hear that. And that is what I strive to do. So I'm grateful that is what came across for you. So if you could give just a high level check-in on where you were in terms of building your financial legacy pre Road to 1 Million to today, a year later, right? Because it's almost a year later. How has that changed for you? Do you feel like you were able to maintain the momentum or implement the strategies? Like, what's the check-in there 1 year later?
Yeah, so I would say that one of the most meaningful things that for me that that was done was when you helped us to set up an sort of an automated process of investing. Right, you helped us to make sense of all, what that would look like, and you know, set up specific accounts and taught us how to fund it. And you know, so it's really the automated nature of it that has helped. And so I know I just have to go in periodically and do stuff, so I don't really pay attention to what it is, because one of the things that you stressed and that I think is important for people to know, it's not like a day-to-day thing you're gonna go in and you know, like, let me see it. So I just know based on what you shared and when you did all of those calculations and blew people's minds and all of that stuff, that it's a process of just making sure that you're doing it, that you are at whatever level that is comfortable for you to keep
Going.
putting, money in it. So I would
Progress
say
over
that that's something that I have done differently because of your tutelage.
I love that. I'm starting to realize through these conversations that my ideal person or avatar or whatever they tell you to create in business is like exactly what I thought it would be. Like people always say, why don't you post more content or talk about like the day-to-day stuff happening in the stock market? I'm like, because the women that I serve are kind of like me. They don't give a damn. They're busy. They're doing other things and building businesses and caring for family and traveling and I don't know, decorating a house and cooking dinner and shit. We don't really care about that. Like give me the plug and chug play. Tell
Right.
me why this is what I should be doing. Give me the signs of what the red flags might be and let me go on with my life. Like
Right.
that's
Right.
it. Like I'm not trying to make a career out of managing my finances. Like it's not, so I love that. I love that. And I love that because that's how I am. Like my business is centered around it, but my own finances, I do what I teach y'all to do. I don't need to look at
Yeah.
it every day. I don't need to look at it every week. As long as I know my wish list is there, I know what I'm buying, I'm funding it, click, 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 click,
Yeah.
click out of it. Now I can go back
Right.
to building my business.
And I think that's what I appreciated because it's like, okay, I can do this,
Yeah, it's
I
not
can
going
do
to take
this.
over your life.
Yeah,
I like that.
exactly.
Okay, last question. What does legacy mean to you? To you, you
Mhm.
have a baby.
Yeah.
How old is he?
Mhm. He is 9.
9. So still a
Yeah.
baby to me. At
Yeah.
9,
He's
you have
still
a
a baby.
baby. You have a husband. You have a big family. What does legacy mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Legacy for me means to have a long-term and sustaining positive impact, not only in my family's life actually, but to find ways to have a long-term impact in the areas that I care about,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in making meaningful change into society. So I'm always thinking of in what ways can my work impact long-term change. So I think of money, but I think of money as a means to help me do my heart's work and to find a way for that to live beyond me.
I love that. I know that I said that was the last question, but do you think growing up in Jamaica gave you a deep sense of community?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh my God, Star, I could talk to you about that. Everybody knew we couldn't make a wrong turn. Now I don't, it's so different because I just drive up and I drive in and I try to avoid my neighbors as much as
Right.
possible. It's like, because I don't necessarily have to talk to them. And I'm like, that is so far removed from how I was raised. And community was everything. We looked
Mm-hmm.
out for each other, and everybody knew that that's Miss Pearls, and my mom has such a like old church name, but yeah, and Mr. Joseph's daughter. They knew people knew people.
Yes.
People looked out for each other,
Yeah.
and that that meant the world at the time, and the absence of it now is really striking.
Yeah. I literally can only imagine. Like, even as you've been speaking about your life work, about legacy, about money, about everything, the one thing, the sentiment, like the emotion that you get behind it always goes back to like you have this deep sense of community, whether it's with your family or just how your upbringing really shows, and I love that. Okay, Dr. Loren Joseph of Visionary Vanguard Group, thank you for joining me today. I am very excited to see you again October 15th in Atlanta, Georgia, for Road to 1 Million Collective. That's what day 2 is called. I'm excited to learn from you. And again, thank you. Thank you for joining me.
It's my pleasure.
Oh my goodness. This conversation with Loren has so much to unpack. Like, I feel like I could literally be sitting here all day unpacking some of the just real aha moments that came out of this conversation, even from her, having that realization moment that whenever I ask God for something, I get what I want. So why am I only asking to get by? Like, I need more. I don't do just get by work. And so I deserve, abundance, period. Also, for her to double down and decide, hey, I'm going to increase my income versus decrease my expenses because I like nice things is such a mic drop moment. Like, oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack in this conversation. But for the sake of time, I have pulled out like 2.5 themes that I want to talk to you all about. Okay. The first one is going to be community. The idea or the theme of community comes up in 2 ways during this conversation. The first being family. Okay. So I see online a lot these like memes and things that say, I went through the struggle by myself and I built this thing by myself and I came bounce back by myself and I'm gonna succeed by myself. And like, just really this idea of like, oh, I don't need anyone. I'm here to tell you, we all need people. We need community. Community is important. Okay. So if you are like in this mindset where I was grinding by myself, I was in the trenches by myself, and when I make it, I'm gonna be by myself, or I'm gonna do, don't, just don't, literally just do not. We are built to need other people, to desire a sense of community. And one thing I've noticed, when it comes to like the wealth building journey and speaking with so many women about their finances and just, it's so deep, like it goes into mindset and family dynamic and all that. There's a couple things that I've noticed throughout my time as a financial strategist. And one of the things that I've noticed when it comes like in relation to community is that sometimes we have a fear around making too much money. Just stay with me here, okay? I'm gonna bring it all together. But we have a fear around making too much money and like outpacing our friends and family. Okay. We don't want, we're always thinking, oh my gosh, well, if I, at this income, I'm right there with them. But at this income, I'm making more than most of the people I know. And then at this income, I'm making more than everyone I know. And even if you're okay with that, are you okay with making 5 times more than anyone in your family or any of your friends, right? You become uncomfortable because you're like, okay, if this happens, will my family and friends still interact with me? Will they still like me? Will they still treat me the same, right? Will they still can I still be me with them? Like, are they going to think, are they going to second guess my decision making? Do they have money things that came up in their past that makes them feel that people who have lots of money are really greedy? Or, it's so many different interactions that can come up and questions that can come up when you're making more money, and then especially significantly more money than the people around you that you love and care for. And that sometimes drives us to stay in our comfort zone. We might strive a little bit outside of our comfort zone, but like nothing too big. We don't want to out earn our spouse or our parents, our sister, our parent, our best friends, our grandparents. We don't want to do that because we don't want to like ostracize ourselves. And so a lot of times we'll just stay in our comfort bubble. We might try, okay, I'm used to making 60 grand. All right, I'll go and try to make 85 or even 100 grand. But we're not really trying to make 500 grand because then what will that be? What will my life be like? Will I get to the top and be lonely? I want you to know, this is how I'm bringing it back to the sense of community. When it comes to community, like, put love into the equation, right? Focus on the heart and soul and humanity of the people who are around you. Take stock of the, of what people bring to your life. You know what I mean? Like, focus on the people, because a lot of times if you're in this weird space of like, I don't want to make too much money, it's because you're kind of like casting your own insecurities on the people around you, and the people around you may not even feel that way. I hope that makes sense. And I know this message is not for everyone, but there are people out there, the people who are the highest earners in their family, in their lives. And they're like, oh gosh, I only need friends who make, just as much as I make, because those are the only people that are going to understand this lifestyle that I have, or I don't want to go around, this certain group of people because although I love them or they love me, they just won't understand my lifestyle. Or, it's just like all kinds of things that go on in people's minds. And I want you to know that if you put love first and focus on the humanity and the real human connection and the real hearts and souls of the people that are around you, when you build a foundation built on love with the people around you, they will love you, they will value you at whatever income you are. And that'll also take some of the pressure. Like if you're a really high earner and you're the person that people look to help them or even to be inspired by, and you quote unquote fall off, like you'll know, just like Lauren said, you'll know that your worth as a person is not tied to the amount of money that you have or don't have. So even if you are like in a situation where you might fall off, it works both ways. Like the people in your community that you have built fundamental relationships with, built off love, they will still be there. So the idea of community, I just want you to put it a little higher on the priority list and don't think that you need to be alone. The second thing, the second way that community came up is just why I created this podcast, right? This idea that I'm the only one that has let myself down. I'm the only one that has experienced this kind of hardship. I'm the only one. You're never alone. You are never alone. Go out there, find you some people who have, similar experiences. Take the mask off, become vulnerable, have those conversations that friend groups may not always have, or cousin groups may not always have, or mom and daughter may not always have. Granddaughter and grandmother may not always have. Like, take the mask off and talk with people, and you'll find out a lot of people are experiencing some of the financial struggles, hardships, wins that you have. There are people out there, and you need community around you. Do not isolate yourself. Do not ostracize yourself. You need other women in your life who are going to care for you, love you, cheer for you, all the things, lift you up, put things in perspective, all those. The last thing that, the theme that came up during Lauren, and I guess this is obviously one of the highlights or, of her being a therapist, is she said, I don't know if y'all remember this, but she said, basically she talked about the pain and solitude around the perception of the expectation we have for ourselves. I'm going to say that again. Pain and solitude we experience around the perception of the expectation we have for ourselves. Okay. We oftentimes create the pain and shame and solitude because we are reacting to what we saw in our minds, what we thought, our situation would be, the expectation we put on ourselves, whatever we thought that was going to look like. If it doesn't look like that, we create pain and shame and solitude within ourselves based off this thing that we completely made up. Basically, we completely made it up, put it on ourselves, and now we're reacting to it by ourselves. Like, I thought that was such a mic drop moment as well. Like, you really, like when they say mindset and perception can really change your reality, like it totally can. And she mentioned, give yourself a break. This year, through therapy, I have been working on giving myself grace. And I am so, like, my personality, the way my personality is set up, the idea of grace was just like, because what's the line between giving myself grace and just not taking accountability? Like, I cannot give myself grace right now because I need to grind. I need to be in this mode or that mode because I don't have time to give myself grace. I got to step up to the plate, right? This is my personality. This is how I am wired. But through therapy, I've really been understanding what giving yourself grace means and how you can live in a space of simultaneously giving yourself grace and holding yourself accountable, right? And so I just want you to just think on that for a while. Just think on that for a while, because it's been such a powerful, I don't know, like come to Jesus moment for me. And when she said it in the podcast, just around the idea of like placing all these expectations on yourself, wanting the best for yourself. And then when it doesn't show up and look the way you thought it looked, then you think you're just a failure. It's just a failure. It didn't happen. You didn't achieve the thing, whatever. It's just, all of it is not real. And sometimes you just are being rerouted. And sometimes, there's a lesson in the L that you're taking that you may need to take. You may have needed to take that L and learn that lesson so that you can be the recipient of, what the ultimate vision is for you. Because sometimes your vision is not in alignment with God's vision, right? And so it's so much to unpack. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, I cannot wait to see Dr. Loren Josephs at Road to 1 Million, October 15th, 2023. I will drop all of her information in the show notes. All of my information is going to be in the show notes. If you want to grab one of the last couple of tickets to Road to 1 Million in Atlanta, Georgia, go ahead and click the link. I will see you soon. We are going to have some kind of follow-up conversation to this. I'm sure a lot of this will come up during the event because it's all around money and money mindset, women, growth, So I'm sure a lot of it will come up, and I'm just super excited about it. So again, it was a wonderful conversation. Connect with her. You need to connect with her. And this is for business owners and, corporate queens, 9-to-5ers. Everyone needs to connect with her and just share in her, in her area of expertise, because she's very, very passionate about it. And she really understands the assignment. Like, she can get you from where you are to the money. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.